Hello, everyone. Welcome to the New Author Podcast. Today is I didn't pull my my outline up in time, and I forgot what day it is. Here, so there we go. Monday, September 2nd, 2024. We're back after a week off. This is episode number 278. And with me, I'm one of the hosts. See, I've already forgotten how to do the open. I'm one of the hosts of this podcast, Jerry Evanoff. That's who I am. And with me, as he is each week, is Rich Kacy. Rich, that's who you are.
Yes, I am Rich Kacy, and Rich Kacy's doing okay. He's physically feeling halfway decent. The weather isn't great, but it's not as horrible as it has been.
Okay.
And I've spent the whole week batching it because my wife's been out of town. So
nice.
I'm looking forward to her coming back and getting some more noise in the house. It's been awful quiet around here.
Listening to you talk about yourself in the third person reminds me of Ricky Henderson, who all-time steals leader in Major League Baseball history, I believe, who used to talk about himself in the third person. So I see all these stories of people walking over and say, "Hey, you stole that base. How'd you?" He's like, "Oh, Ricky's feeling good today," and it was just, man, it just goes back to a Seinfeld episode that was supposed to be funny, but in real life, Ricky Henderson actually did that, which is strange. But.
Well, that's a whole vibe, not to mention it. Maybe I'll start referring to myself in the third person when I'm at work and just see how people react.
Use your whole name though, Rich Kacy. Don't just say Rich. Yeah. Use your full name and just see how it goes.
Yeah. Really funny. Well, everybody at work calls me Richard. So
oh, wow.
I could go Richard.
Is that I know you're from the North originally, but is that a Southern thing? We have a guy in our golf league. His name's Richard, and I've always just said Rich. And one time somebody who golfs me said, I think he likes to go by Richard. And I'm like, well, what does it matter? So the next time I golf with him, I just asked him, hey, somebody told me you like to be called Richard. And I always say Rich. Are you okay with it? He's like the nicest Southern guy. He's like, yeah, I don't care either way. But is that a Southern thing? Do you know?
I don't really think so. I think it's just some people like the full name. Some people don't. Like my son's name is Nathaniel, and so I guess that would be Southern because he grew up in the South.
What? Say it again. Richard, wait. Your son's name is Nathaniel. Then what?
Then he. But he does. People tried to call him Nate. Even when he was a little tiny kid, he always used to correct them. No, my name is Nathaniel.
Wow.
So
if I ever met him, I'd call him Nate. I'd just say Nate.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. He wants the whole name. Although in the South, Richard is usually pronounced Richard. So.
It's nice. I like that. It's like when I call Target Target. I like the fancy name.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, let me jump into some stats here. It's been an interesting couple of weeks for the both of us, by the way. Not a lot of writing from either of us, although I was still working all the days I said I was going to work. It's just I don't know if you've hit this in the past, but I've grown very much tired of the book I'm working on right now, and not the characters, just the book. And I have about 6 or 7 chapters to go, and I just decided I'm going to put it aside and do something else. I'm in the series, so I'm not like venturing away from the series itself. But so in the last 2 weeks, I've added 5,128 words, and most of those were in the first week. That brought me to 48,799, and that takes me through most of chapter 19. It also includes a prologue, an epilogue, chapters 23 and 24. So I have a couple chapters to write in between there, and then the last few to finish that book. And like I said, I just kind of got tired of it. Have you dealt with that?
Yeah, it happens to me all the time. And from what I read, it happens to almost every author. By the time you get done, you just can't wait to get finished with the book. Although for some reason, when you were talking about that, it just popped in my head. And if you're doing a long series like you are, I wonder how it would be if you just went and wrote the first and last chapters of every one of the books. I wonder if by the time you got down to the last book in the series, doing the first and last chapter, your brain would just go, "Okay, it's all done." And then just check out.
I mean, you've inspired me, Rich. I kind of want to do that now for the last 4, is write the first and last chapter of each of them just for fun, just to see what would happen. In fact, now that you've brought it up, I may actually do it just for kicks. So we'll see. But all right, so
interesting experiment, but it may ruin all your plans.
So yeah, well, it's like, okay, so like a lot of times when I'm doing anything related to copying and pasting, and this happens more to me than you might think, because at work, I'm always copying and pasting code or Excel spreadsheet stuff. A lot of times if I have a long list of things to do, let's say there's like 3 columns and I have to update, 20 rows of 3 columns. I'll update the entire first column, and then I'll update part of the second column. Then I'll go to the bottom, and I'll start from the bottom, and I'll do columns 2 and 3, work my way up. Like, I don't ever do it just in an order. It's almost like I get bored anytime I'm doing anything like that, and I have to go to the back or the last call, so maybe that's just the personality thing. I don't know.
Boy, it almost sounds like that procedure when you're doing code would be rife with mistakes, or definitely opportunity for mistakes.
I
If you're
mean,
going
I'm not
backward.
gonna I'm not gonna pretend I don't write bug-free code.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, all right, for the year, my total is 139,490. I'm probably off track now to hit my 240, just because of the last couple weeks not doing much in terms of writing. Although I
Yeah.
will say, with what I've been doing, when I do get back to writing, plotting is obviously what I've been doing. When I get back to writing, I'm going to be able to get through a lot of words. I'm plotting pretty heavily right now in one of the other books, and heavily enough to where I think I've got over 11,000 words right now in book 7 plotted, and I'll talk about that in a little while. And that's only with the first 7 chapters detailed. There's still 20 chapters to go, and I'm already sitting at 11,000 words, and that includes character sketches and locations and all that good stuff. So when I do sit down to start writing again, I will be able to breeze through the words pretty quick, which is good.
Yeah.
My average word count per hour did go up to 1,132. That's it went up 1 word. And then last week's goal was actually the goal from 2 weeks ago when we podcasted last. I put 5,000 words down for the, and I did hit that, except that was for last week. And if we'd have podcasted last week, and I would have probably said another 5,000 words. So I obviously didn't hit the goal, but I'm not calling it a failure. I'm actually going to call it a success because I kept working every day. As long as I'm making progress in the series, then to me, that's progress every day. And I did, like I said, I do have an 11,000 word outline that I started, about a week and a half ago. So I've got a lot of words in. It's just not like first draft words in a book type thing. So
Right. Well, I mean, it's still stuff that probably those words will actually find their way
yeah,
into a draft at some
yeah,
point. But yeah, I can see what you mean when you'll count them later when they actually go into the first draft.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, me, I've done absolutely nothing over the last 2 weeks. I mean, I have noodled around a little bit with a couple of chapters, but in my my what do they call it? Romantic fantasy, I guess.
Yeah. Time
Yeah,
travel
romantic.
romance. Is that what it was?
Yeah, time travel romantic fantasy is what it is.
It's a hell of a genre.
Yeah, really. But to tell you the truth, I'm just at the end. I've been burning candles at both ends. So my energy is gone, my motivation is gone, and I think I'm going to take a couple of weeks at least and just not stress myself with writing, not give myself any goals. If I get to it, I get to it. Part of the problem is I've been working a whole lot. There's been at the library, it's been really shorthanded. People have been out sick with COVID, and COVID's really going through our community right now. And people are taking vacation. When you work at a library, you really aren't allowed or can't take vacation during the summer per se, because that's when all the kids are out of school and they just swamp the library. You need to be at full staff. But once the fall hits and kids all get back to school, then people start leaking out on vacations. So yeah, it's just been a mess between that and all the stuff I got to do here at home. I have to replace the fence around the yard. I've been working on my wife's car. And since my wife has been gone this last week, and it gave me lots of quiet time in the evening to sit there and think, what would I like to be doing? Well, I mean, the best of all worlds, I'd like to be, holed up in a mountain cabin someplace and just writing. But right now, I think what I'd like to do is get a good night's sleep. So
Yeah.
I'm going to slow down on the writing, and fingers crossed by the end of September, I'll be back at it. So nothing really to report other than things are the same as they've always been.
Well, there you go. Well, okay, so I'm gonna dive back. I know you know it because you see the outline, but I try to keep really good notes on what I've done the last 2 weeks. So I'm gonna really go through this, and we're gonna talk a little bit about the last.
I've got a question. I got a question
Yeah.
for you. Have you even before you started doing the podcast, did you keep like a daily diary? Because
No.
I see that you are really good about doing this every single day. I can do it for like Monday, Tuesday, maybe into Wednesday, and then I go and I just stop doing it.
I do it during writing sessions. So if I sit down to write, like I won't do it today, but tomorrow I'll sit down to write, and at the very end of it, the last thing I'll do is I'll just quickly update what I did that morning, and then what I did writing wise, and then the next day when I write, then it'll be Wednesday. Then I'll go back and recap the rest of Tuesday in there, and then put Wednesday in there. So I do it not on a day-to-day basis, but like on a writing session basis. I've got like 3 pages of notes in our outline on just what I've done the last 2 weeks.
Do you have to run a log when you at work? Do you have to run a log of what you're doing?
No.
No.
The only thing we do is we have a Teams chat with like 5 or 6 of us developers and a couple of the project managers, and every morning you just write in there maybe a quick 2 or 3 sentences of what you're working on that day, and that's it.
Right. I work with a woman who uh, used to be or is an engineer. She used to work in a consulting firm until she had a couple of kids and got mom's brain, and then she's trying to work herself back into it, which is why she's working at the library instead of an engineering firm. But I was telling her my problems with keeping track of what I do and how I just lose interest. And she was telling me how at her old job with the engineering firm, she had to log every 10 minutes because
Oh,
they build in 10-minute increments.
mm,
So every 10 minutes, she'd have to make a note about what she had just done for those 10 minutes. And I go,
wow.
man,
That
I can't imagine doing that.
at my old job, we had a program. I think it was called Trello, which I actually know that authors will use
Right.
for I think for plotting. Authors will use that, or for like maybe almost like a series Bible or a Bible, where you had to do it each day, and we would I would always wait till the end of the day and then just kind of estimate, here's what I did for 4 hours and then here's what I did for 15 minutes, and it was never 100% accurate, and I'm not even sure if anybody ever looked at it. But my one
Right.
buddy, who he would wait till Friday afternoon and just do the whole week.
Just
And
make it up.
yeah, I mean, it would be like probably pretty close to accurate, but probably not
Yeah.
completely. So yeah, I hated doing that. I hated for me, it's always like, I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do this morning, and then at some point I'm going to have a project for you that you asked me to do. And if you think it's going long, just come to me and we'll talk about it. And if when I'm ready, I'll show it to you. And we're all adults here, type of thing. Logging like that,
Right.
just it seemed
Right.
childish to me. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
all
Sorry.
right,
Didn't mean to interrupt.
that's right. That's okay. All right. So now this is 2 weeks ago today. This is Monday. I don't know, August the something or other. I was working from home on a day, and I didn't do any writing at all. And I was supposed to have a fantasy auction. This would have been my first live draft at 7 p.m. But unfortunately, the guy who was hosting the draft wasn't going to get home until about 7:30 to 8:30, because earlier in the day he was in a golf outing. He got a hole in one and he won
Oh,
$10,000.
holy
Now,
cow.
he's a worse golfer than me. So after I got done calling him all kinds of swear words, for getting a hole in one before me, we ended up getting there around 8:30. That's when we started. Now I had to get up the next morning to go to work. So we got there about 8:30, did our draft. It's such a fun. I love that draft. I have become this super aggressive auction person when it comes to fantasy football, where I'll have a list of players that I want, and I'll just keep bidding until I get them. I don't care. I have a budget set up. Like, I'm really really organized with that too. Not only like this outline, but I'll have multiple budgets set up depending on the players I get. And it's so funny because after I start bidding, the guy actually got the hole in one, and he said it before and he said it again this time. He's like, "Hey, you got to watch it. When Jerry gets somebody he wants, he's going to keep going until he gets them." And I like people knowing that, because it means now I can bluff. Um,
Yeah.
but it was a good time. There were 12 of us there, and I didn't get home though
Does
until after. Oh, good.
does he hold this at his house, or is this the one that you do at the bar?
No, he holds it at his house. He's
Oh,
got
okay.
a really nice deck in the backyard. So we actually did it in the evening. It's dark out. There's some lights out there, and it was nice. I think that was a bit of a chilly night where most people were wearing pants and like sweatshirts. I had shorts and a t-shirt on. I was fine. Um, but yeah, that was a good time. And then I got home around 11:30 that night. I didn't get to bed until like after midnight. Or I didn't fall asleep until after midnight. I had to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning to go to work. So which I did, and I warned everybody the next morning, I am sleep deprived. So yeah. Um Tuesday, I woke up around 5, like I said. I was gonna, my plan was to set my alarm for 6 and go in an hour early. Or I'm sorry, an hour late, and then take a short lunch. No writing, just take a short lunch, and then head to golf after that. But I woke up at 5, as if my alarm had gone off, even though it didn't. And I laid there for about 20 minutes and just like, I might as well just get up and do it. So I did. Um, and then I got to work. I worked in the morning, and then at lunch, I was still plotting in book 5, the one I had been writing for all this time. Still plotting in there. I was still plotting that section between like chapters 18 and 23. Um, and I started working on I forget where I was. I'll be honest with you, I don't remember where I was, but as I was plotting, I had this whole speech in mind that one of my characters was going to give in chapter 22. So instead of plotting it, I literally just started writing it, and I ended up writing about 500 words in like a half an hour. And was happy that I did some plotting and some writing that day. So I got something done. I mean, again, it's a short lunch. It's like an hour lunch, so it's short, but I
Right.
was able to get a pretty good amount of work done that day. In the evening, I was off to golf, and about 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, well, prior to this one, about 4 weeks prior to this one, I walked up there and I saw the number 19 cart, and my favorite football player of all time is Bernie Kosar, who wore number 19. So I always look for the 19 carts when I go to the golf courses, and anything 19 I always look for. And I found it. I told the guy who worked there, I was like, "Oh my god, I love this cart. I'm gonna play really, really well tonight. I got this cart, and Bernie Kosar, blah blah blah." And then I shot a 43, which was my lowest for the whole year. And I came back afterward. I turned the cart back in. I told him, I'm like, "You got to save this cart for me. This is my cart right here." And we're laughing about it. He's a good guy. We're laughing about it. So that was about 4 weeks ago. So on this day, I go in, and as I'm walking up carrying my clubs, he sees me and starts running into the barn. And I'm like, okay, I know what's happening here. He pulls out with the 19 card. Like he told me, he's like, "Oh, I saw it down there. I saved it for you. So you got it." I'm like, okay, like that was really nice. And then I went down and I was telling my buddy Jeff, who actually is the character who I based. Jeff is the person who I based the character on, who gave the speech that I wrote earlier in the day.
Okay.
He's also I just talked about something else that had to do with him too, strangely enough. I don't remember what it was. But anyway, so I told him, and he's like, "That should be my card. My birthday." He's 5 days younger than me. My birthday's the 14th. His is the 19th, same year. And he's like, "That should be my cart because I'm born on the 19th. And I'm like, "No, it's Bernie Kosar. He's way more important than you." So we decided to play against each other for the cart for the following week. And then Jeff went up and told the guy. So the guy was all in. He's like, "I'll save it for whoever wins." And I came down to the last hole, where I needed to make a putt from about 20 feet to beat him 11-9. And I missed the putt and he beat me 11-9. So he was all excited about it and he was going to like brag about it and hold it over my head. Oh, I had a surprise for him though. We'll get to that.
I have visions in my head of that scene in Caddyshack where the starter is making book on whether the kid's going to pick his nose and eat it. And I wonder if the starter was going to do that to you guys with these carts.
Would not surprise me. Yeah. I mean, well, he was all in. This guy must have a boring job, because he was all in with it, having fun with us, talking trash, all kinds of fun with us as him and me and Jeff are just playing for it. So then Wednesday night, I worked from home all day. And there was nothing writing related on that day. And then right around 5:00, I left for my second fantasy draft of the week. That one was the one that was in the bar. There was actually a football card shop that's like five minutes away from where I was going in Chagrin Falls, Ohio. So I stopped there and talked to the owner, telling him how I collected cards when I was a kid, and it was so much different back then. Now it's way more of a business. And I think it's like when you're a kid and you're playing like baseball with your friends, and then the adults come in and try to take it over and they ruin the whole thing. I kind of think that's what happened with fantasy or with sports cards, where it used to be a thing that kids did and kids collected cards and it was a blast. And yeah, there were valuable cards and you traded with your friends. And then the adults realized, okay, there's a lot of money in this and they're going to take it over. And now it's like, I used to get 20 cards in a pack for 50 cents with bad gum. And then now it's like you get 11 cards for like, $20 or whatever it is. It's ridiculous. Right.
You did a little Freudian slip there where you started to say fantasy.
I did.
Instead of, and because the exact same thing happened with fantasy leagues.
Yeah, I can see what you're saying there. Although I feel like I'm one of the adults who's probably ruining it now.
Most definitely.
Yeah. When I was a kid, we just played it with friends and had a great time. But yeah, I'm definitely part of the problem in this case. Went to the bar, did my draft. This is the league that I won last year. They should have had a trophy for me, but my name's not ready yet on the little engraving plate on the trophy. So I'll get that at some point this year. And I'll take it with me. I was hoping to take it with me to see Ringo Starr in a couple weeks, maybe put it in a seat with me or something, but I'm probably not gonna be able to do that. Did the draft, but again, got home super late, probably after 10:30, 10:45, and then had to get up the next morning to go to work. And I was still working on the plotting of chapters 18 to 22 in this book 5. And again, same thing. I started working on the plotting, and then about halfway through it, I decided to start writing. I started working on chapter 18 this time, got about 643 words into it, about 40 minutes in, and worked out really well. But on this same day, the first round of the final tournament in that fantasy golf league that I was in, which the first prize was $3,000, second prize was $2,000, and I was in first place. I've been in first place for, 8 weeks, 11 weeks, something like that. And I was a pretty good way ahead, and I checked. And I had a guy by the name of Billy Horschel. Didn't really matter what he did. I mean, if he finished in the top 5, I was guaranteed win, but that wasn't going to happen. And but the guys behind me, there were 6 people behind me that could have won. One of them didn't turn a player in for some reason. And the other 4 of them had Victor Hovland and one had Xander Schauffele. Xander Schauffele's the second best golfer in the world. And I was right there thinking, okay, I'm a Browns fan. And you can relate to this. I've seen too many spectacular losses So I figured I was going to lose to Xander Schauffele and finish second, which, by the way, I'm not going to complain about finishing second and getting $2,000 on a $50 entry, but I really wanted to win first place. So after the first round, all the three of those guys, my guy and the two guys that all they needed to do was lose. It didn't matter. They come in second, I still win. I was that far ahead. All they had to do was lose. They couldn't win. So then, so I watched that a little bit while I was working. I was watching the scoreboard, and at the end of the first round, all three guys were in the middle of the pack. Nothing special going on, so that's good. Friday, I'm back in the office. I'm in the office on a Friday, which is not something I'd ever done before, and I really liked it. It was super quiet in there. There were only about 8 or 9 people in there, and there was no one in my entire row of cubicles. And in the next row of cubicles was my coworker Brian, and there was no one in his row. So there was no one between other than Brian. There was no one like 2 whole cubicle rows for me. So it was so quiet in there. I could actually sit and talk to myself and no one cared. It was great.
Before you continue, did you see that story about the woman at AT&T? I think it was AT&T who died in her cubicle and they didn't find her for 4 days.
No.
Until they started noticing a smell.
Yeah.
She had clocked in. She had come through the door scanner 4 days earlier, and nobody had missed her, and nobody had noticed she was dead.
I'm sorry. Are you writing book 10 for me right now? Is that what's happening? Because that sounds like the beginning of a CSI episode. That's terrible.
Well, it'd be one of those things that you read down the book and you go, "Oh, that wouldn't happen." So,
right?
Somebody would notice, but nope, apparently not.
I wonder how that would happen. I mean, are there days without people in the office?
No, there were people there. It's just that, they didn't notice the smell before the 4 days, but they thought it was just that, they had bad plumbing in the building.
Right.
So I thought it was just, sewer backup or something.
It's terrible.
But,
terrible. Yeah. At lunch, I did some more plotting, but I didn't do any writing. And this was about the time that I was starting to grow tired of this story. So I kept working on the plotting of the 18 to 22, those chapters 18 to 23, whatever it was. But, I was like, I'm kind of bored. I really want to do something else. In the series is fine, but I'm tired of, and I really like the story. It's the Vegas one. I had a lot of fun with it.
Right.
And and the stuff at the end is going to be kind of fun, but I think it was because it was just constant plotting and I couldn't find a time to start writing. And then I felt like, okay, I'm done. Now I have to sit down and write this. I'd like to do something else. I also started thinking about some kind of physical representation of not just the book, but the series itself. And I'm talking about something other than like Plotter, which we've all seen, right, where you have to like scroll left to right. I would love to have like in this room right now. I have a bulletin board right over here that you can't see. It's kind of a homemade one. It's 4 feet by 3 feet that I bought. I bought some what's that stuff called? What's the stuff called that you put in your attic so that the heat doesn't get out?
The foam board.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's foam board. So obviously that's not what I was, but yeah, it's foam board. And then I remember going with my mom. I bought a 8 foot by 4 foot piece of foam board. Then we went to Joann Fabrics and I bought a piece of duck cloth that was big enough to cover it. Then I went to my mom and dad's and we cut it all up and she covered the thing. I had this amazing bulletin board right over here to the right. I would love to be able to like somehow have like this representation of this whole series, just bullet points, not written out, nothing like that, but and it's something that I could just sit down and do, except I don't have the time or the good handwriting to sit down and do it. But I would love to have a whole, and I was thinking about that kind of while I was working, like what could I possibly do? And I really have no ideas. I don't know if you have any ideas or if there's somebody out there that has ideas on how I can do this to have it's almost like what you would see in a murder mystery in the police department where they have like the big glass window where they have everything written out and kind of connected together. I'd love to do something like that.
Right. Well, I mean, the idea you have there about using the foam board or something big that you could stick it onto, or even a wall that you could use blue tack to stick cards to the wall with. But still, you're going to have to print out the cards somehow, either by hand or by using through a computer or whatever.
Yeah, but I did buy some of those note cards. I did buy some of those note cards like about a year ago that I could type out, and it's just again taking the time to do it, and that's not me. So.
But I do understand because, even the programs for plotting like Plotter, yeah, they're fine. But the fact that you can't see everything at one time still means you have to keep a chunk of that in your head. And the whole point of getting it out of your head and up on a board is that you can look at it and kind of flow over it really easily. Whereas if it's in the computer, it just doesn't work the same way.
Yeah.
It's not as easy. It's not as easy to get the big picture. and to see how things connect. And you can't use like that one meme that they have for writers. You can't use the pins with the yarn going crisscross all over the place. How things
I
interact.
would love to be able to do that though, because I
Yeah,
love that. It's so fun
yeah,
looking.
yeah.
I think I'd want like it doesn't like my first book is like 55 chapters. I wouldn't even need a card for all the chapters. I would want more like key points, and then what in this story. This is where you get into the yarn. Like what in this story now goes on to book 2 or book 4 or
Right,
book 7.
right,
That
right.
that is something that I would love to be able to just sit down and do. I wish I had the time, or I say that I say that I wish I had the time. I wish I had the ability to take the time and make the time instead of sitting on my butt at 8:30 at night and watching TV until I fall asleep. You know what I mean?
Right,
Like,
right.
but that is important to me because it's a bit restful, and I'm not constantly
Sure.
moving all day, so I do need that time. But so I've been kicking this around. I doubt anything's going to come out of it. If anybody has any ideas, please let me know. But I would love some kind of a physical representation up on a wall of all 9 books in this series and how they kind of connect and the key points and bullet points and all that fun stuff. Anyway, so
This
then
sounds
that
like
was okay.
this sounds like another job for Paris.
Yeah, I mean, I think she's about done with I haven't actually looked at anything she's done yet, but I'll open up the screen. I can see that how far along she is, but I don't read any of it. I know she's pretty far along. All she does is keep texting me how good the book is, and I'm like, well, that's nice. I think you have to say that because you're related to me, but that's
Right,
nice.
right.
How's it coming? So, yeah, so I got to check that. I think that's on my list of things to do, is check and see how she's doing, with that. But I could probably ask her. The problem is she doesn't have the other 7 books or 8 books, and I haven't even written
No,
like
right,
3 or 4 of them. So,
right.
but that's interesting yeah, that's interesting. I don't even know if I would use it once the 9th book was written and finished. Like, I don't think I'd need it anymore. It's just like while I'm writing the books that I would like to have access to something
Oh
like that.
yeah, sure, sure.
Mhm.
Because not only that, but by the time you get to the 9th book, you've forgotten what's happened in the first book, and you don't know if you've retconned something or not. So,
Right. And I know I have.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, so then I left work. Like I said, everything was great about working in the office on a Friday. I'll probably do it a few more times throughout the rest of the summer, although I'm taking a lot of half days now. I've saved some up. I'm taking a lot of half days the rest of the year. But there are some days I'm sure that I'll work in the office, except for the problem is that at 4:15 or so, I have to get in my car now and drive an hour home. And I hate that part. That's the best thing about
Right.
working at home on a Friday, is just closing my laptop and I'm done. And so drove home. Nothing exciting in the evening. I was up early on Saturday to golf. I was about halfway to the golf course. It's about 6:20 a.m. and 6:20 a.m. and I got a call from my buddy Dave, who golfs me on the weekends, telling me that he had slept in, and he wouldn't be making it, and I could either turn around and go home, or I could just play by myself. Well, so I'm obviously going to play by myself. I'm already halfway there, and I shot 90, which is about where I want to be. But on the 8th hole, I started doing this thing with my club where I would take my right hand, yeah, and I would go way up under the shaft of the club on the handle, which is
Uh-huh.
very, very super uncomfortable. But they always say that you need a strong grip with your left hand, which means it's turned over. You should be able to see like 2 to 3 knuckles on your left hand, and that's what keeps you from slicing the ball. But every time I would try to do that, my right hand would get in the way. So I was just like, screw it, and I just pushed it way up under, and I was killing the ball.
Oh wow.
And I was hitting it far. And this was just, I was literally only using a 5-wood, and I was hitting it 180, 190 yards. Just a couple holes where I never get up in 2. And on the 10th hole, I was on the green in 2. There's the 11th hole is this 195-yard par 3 uphill. And I was on the front of the green, which never happens. And
Right.
I think it adds a little whip to the club, and it also keeps you from being able to keep the face open. He closes it on purpose. Um,
Yeah,
it-
I'm sitting here trying to think about the biomechanics of what's going on there, because what you do by twisting your left hand up and around like that, you're essentially locking your forearm
yeah.
and probably your elbow as well. So maybe,
It
yeah,
feels so weird. It just,
maybe it's forcing you to transfer more energy from your trunk into the or your legs
maybe.
into the club. Yeah.
Yeah, I have no.
Huh.
All I know is, that's the kind of thing that I find on the golf course every now and then. And the next time I go golf, it just never works. It's like, well,
Yeah, exactly.
that was good for 6 holes, but now it's a new day, and
Right,
it
right.
doesn't work anymore. So then I was watching the golf course Friday night, and by the end of the second round, the 2 guys that I needed to lose were both. One was down, I think, 12 strokes, and one was down 13. So I was feeling really good. Except again, as a Browns fan, I know how this goes. So Saturday, or I'm sorry, that was Friday night. So then Saturday, the after I got done golfing, I went off to Hothead to do some writing, but I was keeping my eye on the golf scores. And naturally, the two guys in the lead decided they didn't want to be in the lead anymore, and they kept doing bad. And then the guy who's the second best in the world started doing well. And by the end of the third round, he's only down. He made up 6 strokes. He's only down 5 strokes. And I'm like, here we go. I really want to win, but I know what's going to happen. So anyway, I was at Hothead. I went to Hothead to write. And I finished up the plotting of chapters 18 to 23 right about this point, and I was ready to go ahead and write. And I know I had said the previous day that I was kind of growing tired of it, but I did continue working. I went into chapter 18. I wrote 1,569 words. So I had a good, lunch, writing chapter 18 there. And then I headed home. And again, this is where I watched some of the golf, and it was hilarious as the two guys I need to lose. One of them wasn't doing anything, and one of them was the one that 4 people had. So the guy that only one person had, that means I would be guaranteed second place if he won and guaranteed first place if he lost. The other guy was no longer going to matter at all. So I was either going to finish first or second. And then as I watched, I made a couple of videos. I'm sorry. Yeah. As I watched in the evening, I made a couple of videos for my YouTube channel. I opened some football cards and played my dice game. And then I did a Yahoo fantasy football draft. Like, I had a lot of fun. And it's funny, if you watch my videos on my other channel, you'll notice that during these videos, I was like looking up, like constantly, because I had the golf on in front of me the entire time. So it's very funny. Sunday morning, I golfed again in the morning, and I continued with this new swing. And again, usually these things go away. This didn't go away. This kept going. In fact, I was hitting the ball even better than I was the previous day. I shot 88, most of it because my short game wasn't very good, but I was killing the ball off the tee and with my second shots. It was amazing. I mean, it started making me feel like this was like going to be a permanent thing. So shot 88. After that, I went to Five Guys. The whole thing with the one I went to where I got there right as they opened, they didn't have French fries. Very strange. That's why I went there in the first place. So I drove like 20 minutes to the other Five Guys, but right before I was ready to go down the road where it was, I was in the intersection. I could see it. I decided, no, I'm going to go left and go to Hothead instead. So I went to Hothead again. This is the other Hothead. And after I got done eating, I worked on chapter 18. I added another 1,500 words, 1,515 to be exact. And that means I had written about 3,100 words in chapter 18 over that 2-day period, which is where most of those words came from. And then when I got home on that Sunday, it was literally about the golf. You had mentioned about not podcasting on that day, which was fine with me because I was really just going to sit and watch golf all day. And really throughout the entire fourth and final round, the guy who I needed to lose, who was only 5 shots back, stayed about 5 shots back the whole way. And by the time it was over, I ended up winning the entire fantasy league.
Wow.
The total amount I won was $3,123. And that was pretty cool. I've won 12 team leagues and I've won 14 team leagues. But this is the first time I've ever won anything where there's like this bulk number of people in it. You do your final or your March Madness brackets with hundreds of people, or you do this or that with hundreds of people. And I never win those things. And to come out and win this thing was pretty cool. I was very happy.
So have you got spent already?
Oh, we'll talk about that, Rich. Oh, we'll talk about that. Monday. So I only did 2 days in the. Oh, go ahead.
Before you go on to Monday, I was thinking about you talking about the new golf grip and how after the second time you're starting to think that this is going to be something permanent, and it would flash through my head. You go, yeah, that's like after the second date thinking you're going to marry the girl.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, you're exactly right. Yes, exactly right. So that week, that was the end of last week, the beginning of, or 2 weeks ago. Now we have last week to go through. And so I usually I have to go to the office 3 days a week now. That's what I'm doing. But on this week, I did not want to go in 3 days. The baseball team here, the Cleveland Guardians, as they're called, I can't stand that name. It drives me insane to even say it. They had 2-day games, a Monday and Wednesday. And when there's a day game, I usually pulled into my parking lot, my ground lot, around 6:45 in the morning. They've already jacked it up from $9 to $40.
Oh,
so
wow.
yeah, it's awful. And I've paid it before because I just didn't want to look there's other lots. I could go behind the building, try to find something else. I just don't like driving through that little area of Cleveland. It's the Playhouse Square area, especially after I get off working right around the same time that the game ends, and traffic is just terrible.
Right.
So I just used one of my work from home days, and I work from home on Wednesday. So I went in Tuesday and Thursday. That was it. So Monday I was at home, nothing writing related. Although I did have to work in the evening at 8 PM. We were moving an app. In order to move it, we have to do it when it's off hours, and that would be that night. So we worked on that. It did not go well. By about 8:45, we realized we weren't going to be able to do it. So we had to revert back and then try to figure out what the problem was. I knew, they always make fun of me because they always joke how I never have any worries. I never worry about anything. And I actually brought up my concerns about this a couple weeks before this. And they're like, holy cow, you never worry about anything and you're worried about this. And I'm like, there are so many moving parts. We made so many changes to so many different things. I just have a fear that we're going to forget a couple things, which is exactly what happened. It's what we did.
Yep.
So we reverted. I knew that whatever was broken would be an easy fix. And by Tuesday morning, we had it worked out. We were ready. Mm-hmm. We handed it off to our tester, and she spent the next couple of days just testing everything that could possibly be tested. And by Wednesday afternoon, we were ready to go.
So the moral of this story is that when the guy who doesn't worry starts to worry, then people better pay attention.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Because they were freaked out when I told them I was a little concerned. Yeah, definitely. So, so we handed off, and then at lunch on that day, Tuesday, I went into chapter 19. I added 974 words to it in about 45 minutes. Again, still working on it, even though I'm kind of growing tired of it, which is making me grow tired of it even more. In the evening, I had my last week of golf. So I walk up to the area where the carts are, and my buddy Jeff had texted me a picture of the golf cart number 19 because he had gotten it before me and had already gotten it. And as I was walking up, I saw cart number 66, and the guy who gave us the cart comes driving up, and I'm like, dude, I don't even care about 19 anymore. I got 66. And he's like, what? And I told him the story of when I was a kid. I was like 15. I went to a pancake breakfast bingo with my grandparents and my parents, and I won the coverall, which paid $1,000, and the number called was 066. And he's like, Jeff sent me up here to like bust your balls a little bit. And he's like, you're not even upset. I'm like, I got 66. I'm good. And so I was very happy about that. That made me laugh. But shot 4, I needed a 47 or lower to end my season with a 7 handicap, which would be the lowest handicap I've ever had before in my life at the end of the season in that league. And it came down to the fact that I had a 9 on the 6th hole because I kept hitting a tree and bouncing back and hitting a tree and bouncing. It was comical, actually. I needed to make I had about a 40-foot putt on the last hole for a 4. I needed to make a 5, and I hit it so far past the hole that it went off the green. So I needed to make a 15-footer from off the green, and I freaking drained it center cup for my 47, which gave me a 7 handicap. So I'm very happy about the 7 handicap.
I love it when you find the trees, and I do this all the time. You find the trees, you think that you're going to be able to play an iron straight through them. Even though you've never hit a straight iron in your entire life, as opposed to just pitching out onto the green or onto the fairway and just taking the stroke essentially.
I mean, 4 of the worst words that you could hear anybody say in golf is "I got a gap." No, you don't. No, you don't. No, you don't. Finally, the 3rd time I did it, it bounced far enough back to where I could get my 7-wood out and hit up over the trees, which I did.
Oh, okay.
It's just I was too far away the first 3 times where there was a gap, but I was too far away to where I would successfully be able to hit it. If I was a lot closer, the trees were like right there, I'd get through them. But I was also close enough to where I couldn't get up over them either. It was just a rough. It was a rough shot. So anyway, so that was Tuesday. Wednesday, I was back working from home again. This is because of the baseball game. No writing on this day, but around 1:00, the guy who runs the fantasy golf leagues. So what he does is he does not collect the money ahead of time and then pay everybody out. What he does is he sends a list out to everybody who lost and said, this is who you pay. This is their Venmo. This is the last 4 digits of their phone number. So you can confirm this is who you pay. So I had a list of 67 people that were to pay me between $45 and $50, depending on how their season went. And as I've said before, one of the best sounds I've ever heard is that Wednesday afternoon from like 1 until about 9:00 at night of my phone just constantly going ping, ping every time a new Venmo came in. It was fantastic. By the end of the day, I had collected from 36 of the 67 people, which is about $1,800. I don't know what Venmo does in terms of looking at like, well, that's a lot of money coming in. The guy told everybody, don't put anything to do with fantasy league or gambling or sports. Just put FGL or golf. FGL for fantasy golf league or golf. But one guy wrote fantasy league winner, and it's like, no. So I was transferring like $300 to $400 at a time back to my bank account, and whatever, it's fine.
Got to get it out of there before they decide to freeze it.
Or they see that you're transferring $1,300 and like, what is that? Should we have taxes on that? Yeah, that kind of thing. So, right. So Thursday I'm back in the office, and I'm still getting pings throughout the day of people paying me. Not near as many as the previous day because now it starts to slow down. At lunch, I didn't do a lot of writing. In fact, I did none. So the same company that I go to Vegas for for my NFFC drafts, my high stakes draft. I didn't go this year. So I had decided right after I got done eating, I opened up my Scrivener and I got my documents. I'm like, let's see what's going on in the NFFC tonight. And there's an auction, a 9 o'clock auction. I'm like, I'm joining that. It's $150. You know, it's considerably less than the $1,500 auction I would do usually in Vegas. And I won this golf league. I've got a little bit of money. Let's go ahead and do this. So I joined that. And then I spent about a half an hour putting together my auction spreadsheet, which I really, really love doing. There's an auction tonight at 9 o'clock that I'm still kicking around joining, but you know, I have to get up early tomorrow morning. You know, it'll go to like 11. I don't know if I want to do that. We'll see. We'll see. And then after I was done with that, I did go back to writing. And I'm growing tired of book 5. So I looked ahead now to book 7, which could end up being book 6. This is like the coziest of coziest mysteries of all the ones I've written. This is taking place like, you know, my main character, Sam, lives on a beach house that his parents owned. And then when they died, instead of selling it, he moved back into it. And you know, you can walk up the beach from his house. There's a little boardwalk. Imagine like a very, very small, cozy version of like Atlantic City, you know, that kind of thing, or Virginia Beach, wherever there are boardwalks like that. And there's like all these small businesses. There's a grocery store, and there's a couple of cafes, and there's a jewelry store. And I've got all these characters, and one of the characters is going to end up getting murdered. And then Sam knows everyone, and I've got like the stereotypical deputy who wants nothing, who wants Sam to leave it alone, stay away, stay out of my case kind of thing, which I really haven't done up until now. The police have mostly been friendly to him, but this local guy is going to be kind of a jerk. And I'm going to try to paint him as a suspect, and then around the midpoint, kind of take that paint off of him. So, I just decided I was going to start plotting that instead. So I opened it up and I looked at what I had. I had about 1,000 words. I had maybe one sentence for about 5 or 6 different characters. And then I had 10 chapters that were like maybe a paragraph each that were made up the whole book. And I thought, well, let's expand this. Let's start working on this plot. So, spent about a half an hour doing that. Had a lot of fun with it. I really enjoy plotting. Like I would love to almost like co-write with someone where I do the plotting and that person does like the first draft and then I go in and do the second draft. I don't know how you, have you ever co-written with anyone?
No, but that sounds like what John and Sean do.
Oh, really?
Johnny
I didn't
True.
even know. Okay.
Yeah. Sean Platt does all the initial plotting and story building, and then Johnny writes the book.
Oh, I had no idea. Okay. Yeah. I like that because I really enjoy plotting. I really like coming up with ideas. And I like doing it with ChatGPT also, where I'll say, give me 10 things for this pinch point. And it'll give me 10. I'll say, I don't like any of those. Give me 10 more. And then I'll say, you know, I like 3 and 7. Combine those, make these changes, and then give me a paragraph. And it's to the point where so many of the things that come out of ChatGPT are my idea, but I'm loving the idea of ChatGPT just typing it for me so that I can copy and paste it. So I don't have to type it all out.
Yeah.
It works out really well that way. So
yeah.
So I really am enjoying this. And I kind of decided at that point that I was going to keep doing this for a little. I'm going to keep working on book 7 or maybe book 6, wherever it ends up. I don't know yet. I originally had it planned as book 7, but I could easily move it to book 6 and then swap 6 and 7. Wouldn't hurt the plot at all. So I also kind of decided this is going to be the book where Sam really learns a lot about his family history. And this is what really moves him into the last 3 books is where he's going to really get into. It's almost like we're past the midpoint of the overall the arc of the series. And now he's going to go proactive instead of being reactive like he had been through the first half of the series. So I had a lot of that worked out too. And it's kind of coming together really well, better than I expected it to. So far. So really happy with what I had done on Thursday during lunch, switching over like that. We did decide on Thursday that we were going to do another installation of the program on that next night, Friday night, which was fine. This is a small program that only a couple people inside our company use. So we wouldn't have to worry too much about, installing it on a Friday night and then people using it over the weekend. Nobody's going to use it again until tomorrow afternoon. They're in Phoenix, so they're 3 hours behind us. They're not even going to use it until lunchtime tomorrow for the first time. So we installed it. We knew we could install it Friday night. So, didn't do much of anything after that. I did put together a nice little Amazon order of football cards and this thing called a tableau, which is basically it's a DVR for your antenna. And one of the things, if you have a TV antenna, back in the old days, we had the rabbit ears on our house, So one of the things that I'm starting to look into doing right now, and this is based on financial stuff, is once football season is over, I'm going to cancel YouTube TV, but still make sure I have everything that I want to have in terms of TV. I don't watch a lot of TV. I watch sports and I watch reruns of shows from the 70s, 80s, right? And Seinfeld on the 90s, that kind of thing. So I don't need YouTube TV once football's over. So my plan was, let's do a couple things. How do I make sure I get the golf channel? Because can't get that through the free stuff. Like I love Pluto TV and the Roku channel. I love all that, but golf's kind of tough. And I saw that golf exists on Peacock, and I know Peacock is going to have a couple of football games, and I've been anti-Peacock because of the football games for a couple of years now. But I decided maybe I'll go ahead and check that out and see if it gives me the golf channel, and it's like $8 a month. It's worth it then to pay the $77 a month for YouTube TV. So,
oh yeah, definitely.
This Tableau is the other thing where it gets me golf, because golf is on regular TV Saturdays and Sundays, and this is a DVR, which means I can record whatever I want. So it also has a group of about 60 free, all the same free streaming channels you'd see on Amazon's Tubi and Freevee and Pluto and all those channels that have they're basically ad-based free channels, so right. And I really like those. So
yeah, going retro there.
Yeah, exactly. So then let's see, at 9:00 that night, Thursday, my auction started, went pretty well. Again, didn't follow my normal plan, my normal budgets, but I'm still pretty happy with it. And by the time I had gone to bed Thursday night, I was down to only 22 people who still owed me the prize money from the golf league. The guy who runs the league said after a few days, let him know who hasn't paid, and he will publicly shame them, which makes me very
okay.
Friday, I decided to do a half a day a couple days earlier, so Friday I had a half a day. And this was payday, so I paid all my bills and made a very nice house payment with the golf money. So I was able to still make a nice house payment with the golf money and pay for the one big money league that I'm in. Even though I didn't go to Vegas, I'm still doing one big money league. I'm just doing it online. So it all worked out well. I did decide to take $200 to the casino for some fun. I hadn't been there in a while. Remember all that luck I had earlier this year? Yeah, it's gone. It's completely and utterly gone. Yeah, just like that $200 I took with me. Then I went to Chick-fil-A to continue the plotting. How far did I get? I don't remember I don't write on here how far I got. I think I went 1 and 2. Chapters 1 and 2 is what I had done here. But at the same time that I'm doing this plotting, I have a list of like 8 or 9 characters that live on the area where the murder happens. I kind of live near the beach. And I have like 1 or 2 sentences for each character, and that's it. But like as I get to a character in the book, that's when I go really expand the character. Or as I get to a location, I expand the location out and I learn a lot about the characters of the location. So I was only able to get chapters 1 and 2 on this Friday while sitting at Chick-fil-A, but I also expanded out some characters, really expanded out the deputy. I wanted to know why he had animosity towards Sam. So I really worked on that a little bit. And I was there for like 3 hours. And by the time that I was finished, I had a lot of characters now, and I had some locations, and I also had some. I think I had worked on did I work on the midpoint or I think I worked on the first pinch point on this day also. I don't remember off the top of my head exactly what it was, but so that was Friday. And I think what's going to happen is once I finish the plotting, I'll make a decision. Do I want to go back to book 5 or just put it off until I go back to my second revision and move on to this one? Do I want to make this one book 6 or 7? I'm going into this right now with no decisions made. I'm just each day plotting, and then we'll see what happens when I'm done.
Yeah, it should be. I would think it would be fairly obvious whether or not you needed to have something in between 5 and 7.
It's funny because book 5 is the Vegas one. The original one that I had for book 6 was a vacation with Sam and Danny and her daughter. And then book 7, I started the plotting with her at his house making jokes about how she's going to move in while she's helping him unpack. Well, it doesn't matter if it's book 6 or 7, because in books 5 or what I had for 6, he's coming back from somewhere. So book 7 or book 6 can open with her helping him unpack. So, so I tried to make it open a little bit so that it, depending on which book I went with, it would still work either way. So Saturday, there was no golf. It was raining way too much the previous night. And then it rained in the morning on Saturday. So we decided not to go. And I went right back to Chick-fil-A, continued working on this plotting. This time I went chapters 3 and 4 this time while I continued to work out some of the characters and some of the locations. This is going to be a 27 chapter plot when I'm done with it. And then what it ends up with chapter wise, it'll probably be closer to like 35. That's usually kind of how I do it. But right now I'm working on a 27 chapter. So I did 3 and 4. I also did the midpoint. I wrote a lot in the midpoint about because what I'm going to do is I'm going to have this police officer kind of look like a pretty good suspect in the first half of the book. There's going to be some animosity. He's even going to have, I even want to have the police officer, I think I have in chapter 5, maybe 4 or 5. I have him kind of cornering Sam. He's got alcohol in his breath, and he kind of corners him near, underneath a dock on the boardwalk, something like that, and just tells him, "You stay away from me," that kind of thing. And and then what I want at the midpoint is I want this deputy to save Sam's life. And then that kind of changes Sam's opinion of him a little bit, maybe takes him off the suspects list a little bit. It's kind of where I'm working at right now. I haven't worked out all the details, but that's kind of what I'm working toward right now.
I've been meaning to ask you this every time I hear that you've gone to Chick-fil-A. I've tried writing at Chick-fil-A before, and the problem with it is, for me, is that by the time I'm done there after a couple of hours, I've probably drunk about 10 Cokes. So about 3,000 or 4,000 calories worth of sugar I've downed. Do you have that problem, or you just
well,
don't do it?
I'm 50% Coke Zero, but
Okay.
the other 50%, I literally, the people that work there don't generally come to my table to ask me if I want a refill, and I'm not going to get up and walk to the counter to do it. So I may have had 2 at the max. I think yesterday I had 1.5. Yeah, so I don't. My biggest issue with Chick-fil-A is their music is horrendous. It is god awful. Yeah. It's the same songs over and over, and it wants me to go to sleep. But I really like their breakfast, so I put up with it.
Yeah, and I have no problem getting up and going to the counter and say, "Fill me up." So
yeah, I don't. Yeah, and so this is going to be about as close to a Murder, She Wrote. I know my neighborhood mystery at book 4 is kind of a cozy one too, but this one's going to be a little bit more cozy. This is going to be as close to as cozy mystery. In fact, the only thing that might make it not a cozy mystery is how I describe the murders. They're going to be a little more violent than what you'd see in a cozy mystery. You'll see them a little bit more. Other than that, I mean, although I guess my Vegas book, I have Sam going to a brothel, which is going to be kind of fun. But in this one, I have an old guy who runs the grocery store, and a lot of the characters you'd see like in a Hallmark mystery, which, by the way, I need you to talk about at some point your experience a couple weeks ago of watching Hallmark mystery movies, because you texted me about it but never actually talked about it on the podcast. And
I'm not sure I'm over the trauma yet,
but maybe so. I love watching them, and I don't even watch that many of them, and I like watching them. And then when you texted me that, all I can do is laugh. So then let's see. This was home. So I had my big money draft that night at 7:00, and that went off the rails so fast. I have a strategy that I do my fantasy drafts by, and it just went off the rails. And I have no idea if I drafted a good team or not, but usually I think I did and I lose. So maybe not knowing means that maybe I'll win. I have no idea. So, Sunday, up early to golf. I shot 92, but again, the new grip on these clubs is still making a big difference. It is working really well. I'm going to continue to work on this, but I'm only using my 5-wood. I'm not using my driver off the tee right now. And I'm hitting my 5-wood as far as I hit my driver. And my thought is, well, if I hit the driver the same way, if I hold it the same way, eventually I'll make it do the same thing. It'll go even further. Well, it hasn't yet. So that's something I'm going to just probably practice with throughout the winter, and then next summer work on the driver and try to see if I can get some 220, 230 yard drives. I went to Buffalo Wild Wings afterward and sat there and worked some more on this plotting. I got through chapter 7, I believe it was. And again, I got most of the characters built out now. I've got a lot of the plotting done in terms of midpoint and first pinch point. I don't have a second pinch point yet. That'll be one of the things that I do coming up, but I'm not there yet. I like to do I don't know about you, but when I plot, I like to do my midpoint, my pinch points, and my climax. I like to know what's going to happen there, and then I kind of fill in the blanks. Do you kind of do the same thing?
Yeah,
you're not a plotter, but you're not a plotter.
No, but I do that when I'm writing, because I'll often skip around. I don't write linearly in terms of one chapter to the next, usually. But yeah, so it's kind of the same principle.
Okay. And then today, what did I do last night? I did a fantasy draft with some friends last night. It was like a $20 draft on Yahoo with just some buddies that we all got in the same league and had a little bit of fun there. And then I found the new Addicted To that I'll get into in a little while, which made me laugh. I just kind of sat and watched YouTube for 2 hours of this specific channel that I think is hilarious. And then this morning up, slept in, got up, cut my grass. And I didn't go anywhere today. I'm not going to go anywhere. I may try to do a little plotting later on, but it would be sitting here at home. I hooked up that Tableau today, which is good. I got that where it is a pain in the butt to hook up, but I eventually got it going. So I'm ready for football season in case, my cable modem still thinks I'm in Pennsylvania. So it gives me Pittsburgh local channels. So if there's a week where the Browns and Steelers are on at the same time, I'll get the Steelers on my CBS instead of the Browns. But with this Tableau, I'll be able to get the Browns on the local Youngstown channel 27, which is good. I'll be able to pause it if I want to. So that's the other reason I got it, not just to cut my cable bill in February, but also just in case, a backup in case I can't see the Browns where I need to see them. So hook that up, and then cleaned up a little bit. I think I mentioned cut my grass. If you're watching on YouTube, you can tell I cut my hair. It looks amazing. And then we're going to podcast now. And then later on, I'm probably going to just get back to the errands that I have to do. And that was my week. I talked for a long time. This is going to be a long podcast because I talked for so long. But that was
I'm not going to talk. I'm not going to talk very long. So I'll shorten it up a little bit.
There you go.
One thing that's happened to me over the last couple of weeks is I've worked a ton. And my wife's been gone. I worked the last 7 days in a row. And she's been gone those 7 days. So when I was, whenever I did get home, I had, chores to do that she would normally do during the day, including, cooking for myself and washing clothes and all that kind of stuff. So it went by fairly fast. And I didn't get anything done in terms of writing, but you mentioned about the Hallmark movies, and it occurs to me that I do have a couple of thoughts I can drop right now.
Yeah.
That I was thinking about during the week, because I read something during the week. It was kind of tongue-in-cheek thing on Blue Sky, where a person said that there's really only 3 story plots. A stranger comes to town, we're going on a quest, and there's sharks where we wouldn't expect them to be. But now I'm thinking about there being a 4th movie plot, and that is Hallmark. And that's all you have to say is just Hallmark. And the most painful thing, well, there's a lot of painful things about watching Hallmark mysteries to me. The acting is really campy and over the top. Mm-hmm. They can't seem to decide whether they want this to be a mystery or a romance.
Yep.
Right. So it's a weird, uncomfortable mixture of both. And the other thing, and I don't know if this is true, this I think is probably the thing that makes those shows the hardest for me to watch. I can't remember how long most of those are. Are they about an hour or what?
They're mostly 2 hours. So they'd be like an hour and 40 minutes with commercials.
Okay, about an hour and 40 minutes. It seems like what they do is they film 3 hours worth of material and then go into post-production and have somebody that cuts and splices and doesn't have any idea what the story's about. And to put it together, because it does not seem like there's much of a linkage between one season or one scene to another. And there's certainly very poor transitions between one scene and another. And those are some of the things that just drove me batty.
I think because they're Hallmark, they know they have to add the romance in, even though they want it to be a mystery.
That could be. But you could do that. I mean, you could do it in much more subtle ways than what they've done. I bought, I don't know if you remember, but what I did is I had checked out one of those binge box CDs DVDs from the library, and they had like about 4 or 5 of them on there, and I started watching them, and my wife got up like 45 minutes into the first one, and she goes, "I can't take this." She just left. So she apparently is not the target audience for a Hallmark movie.
No. The funny thing is, I think she is.
But, well, I mean, in terms of age and sex and all that, yeah, definitely, but not in terms of personality.
So funny.
Yeah,
because you texted me that, and I like them, and I'm a fan. Not all of them, but for me, it's based more on the actress than, because the stories are all the same. Like they are so formulaic. But so I like certain actresses. I'm not a fan of Candace Cameron, or I don't like any of the Full House people. I never really liked that show anyway. But I like Lacey Chabert and some of the others, so I'll watch those. And I usually have to be doing something else while I'm watching them. I just can't sit for the same reason. It just gets to the point where it's like, come on, solve this thing already.
Right. Well, I think what if I ever do watch them again, I may try to watch some again. You have to go into it with the right mindset, and that okay, this is going to be a Hallmark movie.
Yep.
So you know what you're getting to. And I've really enjoyed some of the Hallmark Christmas movies, but those are just straight up nostalgic romance kind of movies. You know, so you really know what you're getting to. I think it's just trying to mix genres, and that maybe some directors have a better feel for that than others. I don't really know. But yeah, I may have to try it again and see what they're like. And
I'll have to get you the ones I like. Mystery 101 is the one I like the most.
Is
it's a
that
series. It's called Mystery
okay?
101. It's a series. It's about a woman who
Oh, okay.
teaches a class, and then she's friends with the detective, and it's a whole will they or won't they, and her dad's in it, and he's a
Oh,
writer.
okay.
Like I like that one, and I like the actress. I forget her name off the top of my head, but she was the third co-host on that summer show back many 10, 15 years ago called Wipeout. And it was like a
Okay.
game show in the summer, and she was on that. But I like her. I think she's pretty good. That's probably the one I like the most. I also like there's one
Mhm.
called Murder 101, and it was starring Dick Van Dyke. It's from like the 90s
Right.
or the 2000s, and I like that one a lot too.
Right. And maybe I'm suffering a little bit from comparisonitis here because Death in Paradise,
Mm.
the British show
Mm.
that streams all on Amazon and BBC too, I think. Uh, it is a straight up combination of murder mystery romance, but the murder mystery is front and center, and the romance aspects evolve slowly over a vast number of episodes. And so it's more, I guess it's more to me kind of what you would expect. Yeah, you've got your daily tasks, and whatever romance is in your life does develop slowly over time. And it seems more
Yeah.
realistic, maybe.
Was that the one where in the very first episode, the very first scene, the woman was taking the guy to the airport and somebody was chasing them? And at some point, there's a scene on a golf
No,
course in the first. I forget. I watched a
no,
British show about a month ago. I don't remember which one it was. Maybe it was.
no. I don't recall. That doesn't ring a
Okay.
bell. The Death in Paradise, it's like they're like an hour long or maybe a little bit less, and
Mm-hmm.
they're now on their 14th season.
Wow.
So
Okay.
yeah, and they've gone through a number of detectives, and they have a really cute way. Given that the show is located on a fictional island, but it's really filmed on Guadalupe. Um, they can justify having different detectives coming in and out because people are on special assignments or they're running away from
Oh.
something back home or all kinds of different things.
Okay.
Yeah, so they can change up the cast and stuff pretty smoothly on it.
Okay.
It's a show
Uh,
I think will run forever.
Sadly, in me having to subscribe to Peacock this morning, I did cancel BritBox because I don't really
Oh, did
watch
you?
it that much. But
Mhm.
there are some of those free what do you call it? Like the new this Tableau, it's free streaming channels, and I know Pluto, they have like British Mysteries as one of their channels, so every
Okay.
now and then I'll peek into that. But
Yeah,
yeah.
so and those may come to it at some point. I mean, they certainly
Hmm.
got a big enough season backlog where they could
Yeah.
ship some of the early seasons over to these other
Hmm.
platforms if they wanted to.
Yeah.
Uh,
All right.
and
Is that
yeah,
your review?
that's essentially my review. I'm hoping to get out from underneath all this stuff I got going on.
Hmm.
I don't remember if I mentioned at the top of the show or before we started, but I'm trying to finish up my wife's car. I've been painting it for the last 2 weeks actually, but the weather has been so rainy and humid here and you can't paint when the weather's like that. So I have to wait for the odd dry day. This morning was dry, so I was able to get out there and hopefully put the last coat of clear coat on the hood. So now it'll be a matter of just buffing it out when it dries really good and then waxing it. I'm trying to replace the fence around my 1/3 of an acre lot, which is going to be involved. I think I mentioned last time sinking somewhere in the neighborhood of 40 or 50 fence posts and cementing them in.
Oh.
Um, doing this all by hand. I don't have a gas powered auger or anything in order to dig these holes, which is okay. I mean, it's exercise. I haven't been able to get to the gym much, so I'm not minding it. It's just it's slow work, and it's going to take a
Mm.
long time to do it.
Yeah.
Uh, but hopefully the weather will cool off and it won't be quite as hard on me to do it.
Yeah, no doubt.
And running a list of future things to do would be just get some of this stuff off my plate so I can get back to writing.
Yeah. Mine is the same as it's been, the author website and a couple other things there. I may look at the author website later on this afternoon. There's a pretty good chance. No, there's a 50% chance I sign up for that fantasy league draft tonight at 9. I really like doing it, but I don't know if I want to spend the money. It's funny. I won that money, but I did make that big house payment, and I paid for the $1,200 league, and now I'm like, okay, I'm poor right now. What
That's
happened?
right. Now it's all gone.
Yeah. So yeah, and although I still have 16 people that have to pay me, that's around $600. But if I knew that was going to all come in, like there's a chance that people don't pay. He did send an
Oh,
email
sure.
out.
Sure.
Yeah, his email out last Wednesday said, in 11 years we have 100% payment. he's like, don't be that guy that doesn't pay. So I expect it, but I think I was wrong in expecting like 90% of it the first day, which is whenever I owe like that, I immediately pay. Like it's fine. I
Right.
just do it. I'm getting it over with.
Right.
So,
And
yeah.
if you catch people in the wrong cycle of when they get their paychecks,
Yep.
it might take another cycle, because I know, even though it's the first, or we just had the end of the month and it was the first of the month, I don't get paid until the end of not this coming week, but the week after.
Yep.
So, it's just a weird cycle.
Yeah, and so what I might, he's gonna send an email out tomorrow morning with the list. So I'll email him tonight with the updated list of names. If it's down to, I believe, 14, actually, not 16, 14.
Oh,
and then so there's a chance that like if he emails a reminder out tomorrow, then I could start getting some more tomorrow from people who just forgot or whatever. So
right.
In terms of my addicted to, there's two things. There's the fantasy football stuff, which I've spent a lot of time, and I'm not done. I have another week of it, doing drafts and stuff like that. But the big one is when I was sitting there last night, I'm just kind of looking around, and I got a channel on my YouTube that was suggested to me called Omaha Productions, and it's basically Peyton Manning, who is hilarious. He's like the funny straight man. Like he's the guy that he's gonna make fun of himself, and he knows it, and he's really good at it. And I came upon a couple videos of this channel where he does like 10-minute videos where he'll talk to like ex-football players or whatever. Like I watched I watched a bunch last night. He talked to Lynn Swan, and he talked to Marshawn Lynch, and he talked about the best plays of all time or the football follies, and he's hilarious because throughout it he makes fun of himself, but he's really good at it. He's really funny, and I watched a whole bunch of them, and I think if you're a sports fan like I am, check out Omaha Productions on YouTube and just watch one or two of them and see if you like it. I love it. I've subscribed to it, and I'm looking forward to when more come out. So yeah.
Over the last couple of weeks, I've not really been addicted to anything that I can think of, because I've just been jumping from one thing to the next, and even foods, which I tend to get addicted to foods. I can't even think of anything there.
Have you made bread? You always make bread.
Haven't made bread in 2 weeks. So yeah, it's been a crazy 2 weeks. Just completely fell out of the normal rhythms of life. So that's the other thing I'm going to have to try to find here in the coming weeks.
Well, in terms of my my week coming up, today I'm off work today. It's Labor Day here. And then I wasn't sure if I was going to go out and write, but I just decided yesterday I just didn't want to go anywhere today. I wanted to get my grass cut, and I wanted to clean up my house a little bit. I wanted to get that Tableau hooked up, do some laundry. I just didn't want to go anywhere, except I do have to go to the grocery store. I may do that. I'll do that later on this evening, and just kind of stock up a little bit. That's the thing. I'm not going to be home much. Tomorrow I'm in the office. I will continue the plotting at lunch, and then I have my work fantasy football league draft. It's tomorrow night at 8:00. It's online, so I'll be home for it. This is a league that I finished second in, so I really need to redeem myself. I need to win the whole thing this year. But that's it. And it only takes about an hour, so I won't be up late, which is nice. There's 12 people in it, but the online draft, generally with 12 people, it's only about 15 spots, so it's only 200 people that are being drafted, or maybe a little more than that, depending on the math. So that'll go quick. Wednesday, I'm in the office again. I'll continue plotting at lunch, and in the evening I have another online draft. This is an auction, starts at 8, and this is one of those leagues that I like to say that you end up in because you know someone who knows someone. So I'm in the league that I had the draft in last Wednesday that was at the bar. I know him because I worked with him 20 years ago. Well, then his brother said, "Hey, you want to be in this?" Well, he asked me, "You want to be in my brother's league?" And I was like, "Sure." So now I'm in the league with his brother, but he's not in the league, but I'm in the league with him. And it's a pretty good league. It's an auction. It takes about 2.5 hours. It's a long draft. I'll get to bed late. This is a league where last year I had the best team, most points, best record, and then I lost in the playoffs by less than a point in a very depressing loss. I blame the Philadelphia Eagles for it. And I did win. I won money. I finished in first in the regular season, paid $400, which was nice. But I, again, need to redeem myself and have a good draft. That's going to be Wednesday night. Thursday, I'm in the office for a third straight day. And this time I'm going to, I'll write again, although I don't know how much time, because I worked last week on Monday and Friday night. I think I can leave a little bit earlier, but still have my lunch break to work on the plotting. Hopefully I can get through maybe 6 or 7 chapters this week in the plotting, maybe get into double digits, get to 10, 11, 12, maybe get close to the midpoint. But that's the plan. And then I'll have to leave a little bit early from work on Thursday and head to a guy's house where we draft every year. There's 2 drafts that night. I'm in 2 leagues that night We do a basic, head-to-head league, 10 people like normal. And then we do this other league that I won't even get into on this podcast called Yorba Linda, which is completely different than any other league I've ever been in. I can't figure it out. I lose money every year. I can't figure out what's going on. And I feel like I should be able to win in that. So that's going to be one that I work at a little bit to get ready for and see if I can figure out what's going on. Won't get home until, there's football starts on Thursday night. So this second draft we have, it'll be going well. The game is going. It's Kansas City and Baltimore. So I'll be driving home during that game, and I won't go home until late. Friday, I'm going to work from home. This is the one day this week where I have nothing going on. And I'll work from home and then probably not do anything in the evening. Saturday, I have my league golf outing, and it's the same place I golf on the weekends anyway, which is nice. That means I get there and I don't have to pay anything because I'm a member there. It starts at 8. It'll probably go to around 1, and then we have our steak dinner and we hand out the prizes and all that stuff. Probably no writing on that day just because I won't get home until 3:30. And I don't know that I'm going to go anywhere in the evening and do any writing. We'll see, but I doubt it. And then obviously Sunday football starts. But we're going to podcast on Saturday. We're going to switch over and start podcasting on Saturdays now in the evenings instead of Sundays since it's football season. So it's going to be a short week this week in terms of the time between podcasts. My goal for this week, I'm not going to set a goal. It's funny. You said at the beginning of the podcast, you're not really into setting any goals right now because you're not writing. I'm not setting a goal either, just because this week is so hectic. Right. I don't know how much time I'm going to have. I don't know when I'm going to be able to write and when I'm not. I know I'm not taking half a day on Friday. And I know I probably won't be able to write much on Saturday, if at all. So the closest thing that I'm going to set as a goal is just make progress on the series as a whole, which means I'm probably not going to work in book 5 at all. I'm probably going to work more in this book 7. And see if I can get some plotting done. And if I can come out of this week with, more done than what I started the week with, I'm going to call it a success. Your camera's falling.
Yeah, what happened there?
I don't know, that's weird.
Oh, I pulled on the power cord with my foot.
There you go. Yeah.
My week, after complaining about having worked so much recently, I had the day off because it's a holiday. And because I have some comp time that I have to use it or lose it. Tomorrow I work only 5 hours, and then Wednesday I work the full day, but then Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday I have off.
Wow.
So I have a nice 4-day weekend. Thursday and Friday, my wife are going to go to the coast, do some bird watching. Hawk migration has started, and we're going to go over to the Texas coast. They kind of funnel their way down the Mississippi River corridor and then down through Texas into Mexico. So we're going to go see if we can see a bunch of hawks. Sometimes if you catch it on the right day, you can see 3, 4, 5,000 hawks.
Holy cow.
Of all different kinds of breeds and stuff. So we're going to go do that.
Where are they migrating to and from?
They're migrating. Well, they're just migrating south to where it's warmer for the winter. Some of them will take up residence in southern Texas. A lot of them will just continue on to Mexico and into Central America and stuff.
Are they coming from the north and going past you, or they're not leaving from you? Okay.
No, coming from the north. Yeah, when all the birds bail out of the north for the winter, they're the ones that do bail out, which is most of them. They generally funnel down in a nice little tight stream because of the way the air currents and everything run, and because of the way the land masses run, and they follow in part based on geography. You'll get all those birds get funneled down basically down through the border of Louisiana and Texas, and so you can see anything during those times of year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
So that's what I'll be doing during the week. I don't know if I'll get any writing or not. Hopefully I'll be able to sit down and do a little bit, but I'm not going to push myself. I'm definitely not going to make any goals. So,
okay, good. Okay.
So that's my week. And then we're going to record on Saturday.
Well, that is going to be the podcast for this week then. Again, we took that week off, so we went a little long today as I babbled about everything that I'd worked on. Do you have anything else you want to talk about?
No, I'm good.
All right, neither do I. So if you want to get in touch with us, you can email me, jerry@jerryevanoff.com. And I'm serious, if you have any ideas out there on what a good physical representation of this series would look like, something that's not on a computer screen that I have to scroll around on. I have to go from screen to screen to see characters and locations, just something I can put on my wall. Maybe you do something that I don't know about. Let me know. Send me pictures. I'll post them. And hopefully we can, maybe it'll give me some ideas on something to do there. Again, email me, jerry@jerryevanoff.com. The website is jerryevanoff.com. If you want to watch us on YouTube, if you want to see what it looks like when Rich's microphone falls forward, go to youtube.com/newauthorpodcast. We are on Patreon. Here, I'll put it up. If you're watching right on YouTube right now, I'll just move that over. Now you can see it on the screen, patreon.com/newauthorpodcast. And yeah, it's pretty good for me. I don't really do social media anymore. So that's good.
Okay. My email address is rich@richcasey.com. I have accounts on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Threads, but I'm mostly found on Blue Sky nowadays. And my handle is Kacy himself. And there are still some links to my Vella stories, richcasey.com.
If you're watching on YouTube, I'm going to flip over to that one. So there it is. You can see richcasey.com now. Technology is amazing. I learned that I could do this. Like, let's say I was saying something really funny. Oh, where'd it go? Oh man, I can't. Oh, I had a little bar that I know what it was. I can, and you might be able to see this. I can do this. I can go, oh my God, something's happening.
Oh yeah,
Whoa.
yeah,
I can
yeah.
zoom in on my face. I was playing around with that before you logged in earlier. So
Yeah,
I,
I've seen people do that.
I do love my technology. So all right, everyone, that is it for us this week, and we will talk to you all in about 5 days. Thanks for listening or watching.
Yeah, have a great week.